Now, anyone who's been watching these videos knows for sure that it's not for show. For sure that it's not for show. It is for sure, though. Before I get into the meat and potatoes, so to speak, I want to provide some context, because these videos are really about sharing joy. Not to make it about me, but again, to provide some context. This past week, I did 2 36-hour dry fasts. And I noticed this week, because the cumulative effect of fasting is very powerful, undeniable, compounds with practice, with consistency, which of course is key. And I've noticed, again, I say not to make it about me, because although it's true for this one, perhaps, maybe it'll be true for you too, if you do what I'm sharing with you now. In these dry fasting, you could say this dry fasting habit, although it's not a habit because it's 100% conscious, I'm mindful of it, and the intent, why I'm doing it, the reason, I've noticed that this week I'm so much more lighthearted and peaceful. My inner being is so much more joyful. And thus I make this video, because I want to share this joy. Honestly, I've noticed the hardest part of the spiritual process is containing the joy. It's an effort to remain self-contained, because it naturally, the light wants to express and share itself and manifest. It is the self with the big S. And you see everything as a reflection of your very own joyful self. You perceive everything through that filter of joy. And actually, it's not even a filter, because the whole point is any personal filter is absent. And when that sense of personal self is absent, everything appears, not just appears, it is joyful. It's experienced, is witnessed as being an extension of your own joy. There's joy in everything. The dew on the morning grass, the sunrise, the moonlight, tonight. It's so joyful, and so I share this with you, so you can feel it too. I want to speak of the Muse, the Muses, the Greek goddesses. One thing I've noticed is that when I fast, perhaps when you fast, this is something that is true for the human, the biology that we embody, that we witness as being spontaneous, just like our mental process, identifying as the loving, unconditional, eternal witness, simply the witness of all bodily movements and thoughts which occur as a result of local conditions. Potentiality manifests as actuality based on our environment, where we're currently at in the physical, manifest, local world. Our inner being interacts with it correspondingly, unconditionally, wholeheartedly. And to finish a thought, because I know I can get off on tangents, I hope you're following this, because the expression itself is a manifestation of what I'm referring to, spontaneity. It's not planned, so whatever's coming out is, I'm witnessing it right now just as much as you are. And this word, muse, which refers to Greek goddesses. It's simply a label. We don't want to get hung up on the label, but this label points to something within us. It's a divine source of inspiration, a source of joy that gives us the inspiration to share itself with everything else, which is subjectively, inherently witnessed and experienced as oneself. So when you're interacting with the world, everything is a part of you. There's not even the slightest sense of separation, because there's that joy, that ever-present joy, which is, again, I've realized, at least in terms of this one's inner experience and beingness, that it's been difficult at times to discipline myself to contain the joy, to simply sit in it. Same with simply sitting and holding the pressure, the inner pressure, the pressure of light, we could say, the weight of this magnetic aura. There's so much of it that naturally it overflows. Your divine cup is so full that it's spilling. It's spilling and sharing itself with everything. So to try to intentionally, consciously put in the effort to contain it, it's oftentimes difficult. Tonight I couldn't contain it, and so I'm making this video. I've noticed that the Muses, this divine source of inspiration, whenever I fast, whenever I consciously engage in what we can label feminine discipline, fasting, meditation, semen retention, at this point, meditation and semen retention, that's a lifestyle. That's an everyday thing. That's automatic at this point. It's not something I have to force myself to do or think myself into, because it's a lifestyle. It's a way of life now. Everything's a meditation. Me speaking right now, like I said, I'm witnessing. So this is an expression of meditation, we could say. And semen retention, that's a lifelong, indefinite commitment. Indefinite and definite. Definite meaning absolute, resolute, and indefinite meaning there's no time frame. It's eternal. It goes on forever. I'm in this. And that thought in itself is a source of joy. That, man, all I have to do in this lifetime is never release my seed. And somehow, some way, one way or another, I don't even have to say it or label it. You already know it. That if you can manage it, to retain the divine light, and at the same time share it by your very beingness, to share your joyousness and peacefulness by your simple loving existence, that somehow by divine grace and providence it will manifest in this physical world, so that you'll have the best of both worlds. Both material abundance and spiritual abundance. You'll have a material pension and a spiritual pension. And thus your inner being, which is the priority, will be in a state of permanent contentment. It'll be permanently self-sufficient, energetically sovereign, because you'll be self-governed. Actually, you'll be self-governed self with a capital S, you'll realize that this body and mental process is simply a puppet of the divine, of divinity, of the Most High. Because again, you're the witness of the spontaneous bodily movements and thought process which manifest as a result of local conditions. And thus, I share this because of the people watching and listening to this. Even though I've probably never met most of them. I won't say most, a lot of them. A lot of you watching now, listening now. There's forces at play that are allowing this soul awareness within my beingness to survive, aware from within this body. Although there is no identity with it, there's no identification with it, I see it as a gift and I'm thankful for it. However, it's simply, again, a puppet to manifest whatever the divine will is, whatever the mission is. I'm not 100% certain what that is. But one thing I'm certain is that the Lord shows up, Christ shows up, the divine light within us shows up every day. And thus this one, labeled Alex, shows up in service. And thus I make this to share again the joyousness. It's hard to contain this. And if you can simply absorb and imbibe a little bit of this, I know that your inner beingness will thank you for it. One other thing I want to share is I've noticed, not only when I fast, but whenever I spend a decent amount of time immersed in the creek or in a clean body of water, a lake, water that's in contact with the earth. Of course, a cold shower is healing, a cold bath is healing. But especially when I go outside and immerse the physicality in clean water, I've noticed that my inner being loves me for it, is ever thankful for it. And that joy compounds and carries on into the next day. And the more you do it, the more you interact with it, the wonderful divine feminine energy, divine Mother Shakti, the divine movement, power, the activating principle that is allowing all of us to move and act as a part of the divine play. The divine will is done this day on earth as it is in heaven, as an extension of my inner kingdom, to share this with all of the world without condition, because I am pure, unconditioned awareness, and thus my beingness extends and expands as a manifestation of this, as you witness this essence now. Your very experience, subjective witnessing of life is very profound, and it compounds as you stay consistent again with it. There is eternal contentment, especially if you make the definite commitment to remain celibate, eternally abstinent, that seminal joy, that semen, the divine light, of which physical semen is a manifestation. That divine light builds up within you in so much abundance that it results in eternal joyousness that just keeps on building up. And where does it go? I don't know. If like right now it's spilling out. Now I get to write the description to this video, and it'll spill out some more. And the more you share it, and there's a balance between sharing it and containing it. There's a fine balance. It's like a razor's edge, licking honey off a razor. Imagine a drop of honey, and you have to lick it ever so delicately so that you don't cut your tongue. That's what the spiritual path, the spiritual life, eternal spiritual existence is like. I won't say is like, because it is. You have to be consciously, consistently, constantly mindful of the balance of the forces within us in order to have this joyousness compound day in and day out. There's an inner, grounded, powerful, yet gentle presence that is always with us. In silence, even amidst the chaos, even amidst the most chaotic environment, even amidst the crickets, the background noise. This presence builds up within us. When this is our purpose, for this essence to compound and build up within us, to contain this, and not just for our own personal experience, but in order to share this. When this is the priority, we realize that it's the presence, divinity, that animates us. And thus, we align with divine will, with the divine pattern, we can say, with the higher attractor pattern, which is the source of our success, being a channel for this, being a channel for the presence, an extension of it, taking no personal credits, being ever grateful and thankful for that which we've been blessed to be able to access. Because of the consistent, mindful, intentful choices that we make on a daily basis, which compounds and enables us to simply be a loving existence, requiring nothing outside of itself, outside of oneself. This is it. This is the eternal moment. All is here right now. So I can simply sit in the pressure, in the magnetic joy, and the experience is wonderful. Simply being, not needing to do anything. And when you do something, it's not because you have to, or because you need to, or because you can't sit with yourself, but because it's an expression of yourself which wants to come out. Because, let's be honest, who's cut out to sit in meditation for 24 hours a day? Not this one, at least not yet. Perhaps someday. Perhaps as I remain consistent with it. There's no end. There's no limit to spiritual growth, to enlightenment. I love that thought. I love the thought that no matter how far I go, whatever I do in the world, how much I evolve in the inner world, there's always room to grow. There's always a new challenge. Always something to look forward to. Even right now. And actually, the only way we can enjoy anything in the future is if we're present when it's happening. So instead of looking forward to something, simply be present, and your future will take care of itself. That's one thing I've noticed. Instead of trying to control the process, to forcibly control outcomes, when you're in a surrendered, humble state, you're simply the loving witness with no inner self-image present that wants to control and dictate things. Things should go this way, and that's the only reason why we may not get along with people, is because they're not behaving or doing something the way we want them to. But when you let go of that condition, you don't project that condition upon something or someone, then again, they're an extension of your joy. Whatever they do, they could throw a rock at you. And hey, you still smile. Nothing can get to you. This seems very drastic, and perhaps it is. I read this in a book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Many of you are probably familiar with it. But there's this dude whose arm got chopped off by a couple of policemen, and he just kept walking. He just kept walking like, it's nothing. What's an arm? I'm not this body. These powerful, spiritual, enlightened beings are so not identified with their physicality. It's like clothes. You take this shirt off, put on another. It's the same as the body. Of course, the chemical environment inwardly is important because that affects our brain and our brain function. So we don't want to pollute ourselves with a bunch of garbage. We want to be mindful of our mental diet, the information we consume, and the 5 sensory experience, what we give our attention to, and also what we ingest, what we consume, what we feed our inner being. We want this to be clean and pure. Like water. Like distilled water. Pure H2O. 2 hydrogen molecules, 1 oxygen molecule. Nothing else. No minerals, no extraneous substance. Just simply pure water. That's what we want to feed our inner being. Especially in the summer. If your diet is mostly foods that are high water content, a lot of fruits, vegetables, perhaps grains like rice, which is cooked in water, a lot of raw foods, fruits that are in season, things like this are good for our inner being. Is good for our joy. The body is approximately 70% water. Same as Mother Earth. That's not a coincidence. This body is simply a piece of the earth. And also the body is approximately 12% earth. 70% water, 12% earth. So, proportionately, water ought to be a higher priority. Of course, the earth element is important too. We don't want to separate them. Actually, none of the 5 physical elements are separate. They're all connected, just like every frequency, vibration along the one spectrum of divinity. And although I was just speaking of this saint, an autobiography of a yogi who doesn't identify with his body, so much so that his arm is cut off, and he keeps walking, kind of looks at it, maybe not even looking at it, just keeps walking. Doesn't even deserve it. Doesn't even deserve the glance, right? And then it grows back the next day. Now, some of you may say, oh, that's not true. There's no way that can be true. Well, hey, when you realize that the spiritual process is about transcending limited contextualizations, then you identify with context, the context of life, not the content, because your intent, your purpose, your reason why never changes. That's the constant. And when the constant, the commitment is to the spiritual alignment, to align with the Most High, divinity, full enlightenment, that's your intent, then that's the constant. And all of the content, which changes, all the people, environments, and circumstances, which is cyclical, which is in a flux, which is in a process, which changes, you're grateful for it, you witness it, but you don't identify with it. You see it as an extension, you experience it as an extension of your very own self. However, the self is ever within, as the presence, as the permanence, as the source of existence, our beingness, our bliss and abundance, which carries us onward, forward, throughout the whole spiritual process. And thus we get to share it with all the world around us, this blessedness. And such blessing it is, indeed, when you retain your seed with the big S. Because then you realize how little you actually need in order to live a fulfilling, blissful, eternal life, full of knowledge and inspiration and divine guidance, which is ever flowing, ever present as the presence, because of your commitment. That's why I make this. God bless. That's all Alex has to say. Although, it's not really Alex. Alex is barely here. I simply had a gut feeling after hopping in the water tonight. After this, I'm gonna write. I am writing. Now, I'm not going to. I see myself doing it now. But after hopping in the water tonight, under the moonlight, just the joy. I knew this video, I just had that gut feeling that, wow, something's got to be said. So I'll show up. Show up in front of the camera on the phone stand and allow whatever wants to express come out without filtering it. And so that's why it may seem like there's been many different subjects or different tangents, but if you're observant, you can see the thread, you can feel the thread, the underlying essence that interweaves, that connects all of this. That is the nexus, the connection to our soul awareness. That's, again, why I make this. Because the fishers of men are those, as referred to biblically, that point those to their soul awareness, to our unconditional awareness, awareness with a big A, that is permanent, that is always with us. And when we identify with this, when we properly place our identity with divinity, with our divine awareness, with our soul essence, with our unconditional beingness, there is so much bliss, And it's got to express. How can I contain all this? I'm still trying to figure it out. Help me out. Drop a comment. Give me some ideas. I'm open to it. I'm definitely not a know-it-all. I don't pretend to know it all. All I know is what is within this one's subjective witnessing of existence. All I know is the divine light within this, and how I see it reflected, manifest in all the world around. And so, if I see people that are down, I don't see them as down, but at the same time, I can't help but to feel empathy for them and to feel what they're feeling. Because when your heart's open, that's naturally what happens. You're extremely sensitive. You feel everything around you very profoundly and deeply. And at the same time, you're aloof and detached from it. And that's the seeming paradox, that you deeply care, you want to help, but at the same time, you don't care, you're detached. And so part of your being is very compassionate and wants to reach out and do everything it can to help. And at the same time, you realize that there's no personality to help the universe, to help providence and divine grace. Everything is already perfect. Who am I as a person to help? It's when that sense of personality, that self-image within us dies inwardly so that we're reborn spiritually, so that divinity, the Holy Spirit, can manifest outwardly and express, emanate as a radiance through us, so that it's not even through one, it already is everything. So there's so many different ways that we can attempt to relay what I'm trying to say. And hey, I may take an L for a loss, but I get an E for effort. No one can deny that. Not that I'm trying or making these videos for an external stamp of approval, for someone to say, hey, you're doing a good job. You did a good job today. It's much deeper than that. It's about sharing our inner being with each other. To simply be able to sit with one another, or converse with one another with absolute non-resistance. Just looked at the time, 333, divine synchronicity, the miraculous manifest effortlessly, on a daily, continuously. That's all I see is divinity. And so there's no personality to filter the world, because what I call personality is simply a response to life. Everything is seen as life. As said in the last video title, there's no need for work-life balance, because it's all life. When everything is life, this moment now, and you are the balance. You are the joyousness. You don't need to extract it from the world, as if you were separate from it. Because that separation, that sense of separation, which is the number one illusion in terms of one's subjective experience, that makes us feel a sense of severance. We want to overcome that illusion of the matrix, Maya. that sense of separateness, which is illusory. We want to feel the divine sense of connectedness and experience the light as us, in everything around us. Experience, witness everything as you, in you. Because this is the truth. Life is all-inclusive. Life is very responsive and receptive. You can't fake energy. You can't fake presence. You can't fake a magnetic aura. You can't fake seeming retention. You can fake what you say. You can regurgitate. You can memorize and make a seemingly wonderful video. But if it's not an expression and an extension of your soul essence, of your spirit, then we can call it chatter of the masses. A lot of noise people are seemingly making just based on some of the content I've witnessed on here. A lot of clickbait, a lot of garbage. Looping back to what I said previously in this video about mental diet. We want to be conscious of what we consume and don't even see it as consuming or getting anything, but simply witnessing what we give our attention to, because this affects our inner being very profoundly, very spiritually, much more deeply than a lot of people may realize. A lot more than I realized previously. And I'm still realizing more and more on a daily, as I remain committedly on the spiritual journey, not to make it about me, but to share that which has been of value to me, this one, so that it can be also helpful for you too. You can't fake the truth. You can't pretend the truth. You can only be the truth.